We titled this webinar, The 7 Ways Portable Learning Systems Are, and then there's a blank, technical education. And the reason there's a blank there is that we thought long and hard about what that word should be before settling on the word disrupting. Disrupting is a big word. There's no question that things are being disrupted. But with disruption comes innovation. According to Bert, meaningful innovation does not need to be based on outright invention. I like this quote as well from Bradbury: influential people don't disrupt things for the sake of being disruptive. They do it to make things better. And how about this one from Simmons? Those who disrupt their industries change consumer behavior, alter economics, and transform lives. And in the end, isn't technical education more than anything about transforming lives? How about this one from Samet? Disruptors don't have to discover something new. They just have to discover a practical use for new discoveries. Or my favorite from Pollard, the arrogance of success is to think that what you did yesterday will be sufficient for tomorrow. I think that we're all getting an idea that what we did yesterday in technical education will likely not be sufficient for tomorrow. Because the truth is that technical education is being disrupted. We're doing lectures over Zoom. We're doing virtual demonstrations with our students. Just this week, one of our states issued its guidelines for what school could look like in the fall. It includes things like a 4-day school week with a 5th day being left for cleaning the school, or 2-day rotations where students are at school 2 days a week and they're studying from home 2 days a week, or AB week rotations where they're at school 1 week and home the next week, or another one where elementary students are in school face-to-face, but our secondary learning is virtual. Secondary learning being virtual. Now that's an interesting situation for those of us in technical education, where our students are used to hands-on learning. They're used to spending time interacting with equipment. In fact, many students find their way to technical education because that is the way that they learn. They are hands-on kinesthetic learners. And now we are disrupting their learning environment. As just one example, I love this LinkedIn post that was shared by our marketing director, Melissa Martin, who introduced me earlier in the webinar. And Melissa was at instructor training for Industry 4.0 last week. And look at the way that that lab looks with face masks and PPE and distance learning. It is indeed a different world. But here's the thing, that disruption is causing and creating opportunity. We're doing Industry 4.0 instructor training this week. Typically, we might have 10 or 15 students or teachers and instructors in a lab learning about how to teach Industry 4.0 technology. Because this training is virtual, would you believe that we have 78 instructors that are participating in that training last week and this week? That is what disruption looks like, but it is also what innovation can look like. So as we turn our eyes to the 7 ways that portable learning systems are disrupting technical education, we first have to answer the question, what is a portable learning system? Well, it's really just that. It is a hands-on training system that we can easily move from location to location. They come in all shapes and sizes: AC/DC trainers, CNC simulators, engineering science kits, mobile STEM robots, virtual welding simulators, pneumatics trainers, advanced automated guided vehicles, training hardware that can move anywhere. And so what are the 7 ways that these portable learning systems are disrupting technical education? In no particular order, we will start with our first, and that is number 1, and it's probably the most obvious one, which is socially distanced labs. Look at this picture. Look at 3 people standing around a machining center. No PPE, no masks. In a weird way, it almost makes you uncomfortable to look at. But that is the way that we taught machining, with a group of students standing around a machining center, multiple people working on the same piece of equipment at the same time. So how do we do that now in a socially distanced format? Well, the answer is easy, right? If we have a cohort of 16 students, we buy them all their own machining center. I'm not sure that's going to work. Those cost $15,000, $25,000, $50,000, sometimes even more. We would be running ourselves out of money, giving every student a machining center, and if not out of money, running ourselves out of room because they're big. And many schools are already limited in terms of space? The answer in part becomes portable learning. We can teach a lot of those competencies on a portable CNC simulator. Students can learn G code and M code. They can learn speeds and feeds. They can learn setup. They can learn about that technology. And no, we're not going to turn somebody into a machinist on a virtual simulator, but we can get them a fair amount of the way there so that when that machining center does become available, they can work on the machining center. And guess what? The portables take up a lot less space in a lot less budget than the full machining center. The second way that we are disrupting technical education with portables is the opportunity for students to learn from home. I owe my friend Nick Moots credit for this little graphic, but a student checks out a portable and they check it out from school, and then they perform exercises in their own home, return that portable learning system to school where it is sanitized and made available for the next student. My friend Dion Knowles from Tech Equipment is going to demonstrate exactly how easy this is. Here we have a cart that is full of portable learning systems. With these, we can teach all kinds of engineering concepts, from forces to drive systems, friction, simple mechanisms, pulleys, energy, springs, centrifugal force, and so on. And the student can check out that portable learning system and can take it home. In this case, we're showing a video of a lab, but these experiments could just as easily be performed at home as a student goes through an exercise. Maybe their siblings are watching and learning something along the way. Maybe their parents are involved in learning what the student is learning. But a great opportunity for a student to take a portable learning system home with them to learn from home if they're on one of those schedules that has them on campus, maybe 2 days on or 2 days off, for a week on or a week off. The third way that portables are disrupting education is what we call cross-curricular learning. When we talk about innovation, one of my favorite innovative ideas in the last couple of years, and it certainly wasn't my idea, was an idea that came from the folks at Ashley Furniture and 4 of the school districts that surround them. They knew that they needed to do a great job of inspiring young people around advanced manufacturing technology, getting them excited about the types of careers that exist and will exist at Ashley Furniture. And out of that need came the Mobile Skills Lab. And this lab travels to 4 different school districts: Whitehall, Independence, Blair Taylor, and Arcadia in western Wisconsin, delivering technical education and advanced manufacturing learning to technical education students in those school districts. That's what that lab looks like on the outside, and this is what it looks like on the inside, expanding to a 900 square foot mobile classroom where students can learn advanced manufacturing technology in their technical education courses. But it's not just about technical education. They've realized that they can use those, and part of the plan was to use those trainers in a wide variety of different educational environments. And we can use trainers that are used in technical education to also deliver competencies in physics and engineering and electricity and magnetism and physical science and environmental science. So it's not just about technical education. We can leverage our investment in these trainers and benefit students across a wide spectrum of learning, giving them hands-on experiences, not just in tech ed, but elsewhere as well. So now we move on to our fourth way that portables are disrupting technical education, and that is inter-school and inter-district rotation. I'm so proud that our guest for this part of the discussion is my friend, Dr. Mike Trimberger. Mike and I first met each other when he was the principal at Sheboygan South High School, where he spent about 10 years in various positions. Today, he's the district administrator at the Random Lake School District in Wisconsin. Mike's got a great background, an undergrad from Silver Lake College. He has a graduate degree from Cardinal Stritch University, and believe it or not, 2 PhDs, one in leadership and urban education, and the other one in philosophy from the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. One of our favorite innovators, one of our favorite disruptors. Mike, it's so great to have you on the program this afternoon.
Well, thank you, Matt, and thank you. Every time I'm part of one of these, I learn some more. So I feel honored to be part of this, and truly thank you to everyone that is here today. I applaud all of your efforts. A lot of us educators just found out what our world's going to look like Monday, and here we are Wednesday talking about how we're going to take this new world and take it into the future. So thank you, Matt.
Absolutely. It'll be an interesting future indeed, and we learn something from you every time as well, and I expect that this discussion is is going to be no different. Mike, I want to start here. You and I first met each other when you were, some would say leading, but certainly a major catalyst and a major part of the leadership team that was putting together Sheboygan's Red Raider Manufacturing, which in itself was disruptive and incredibly innovative, especially for its time and even now. Can you tell us a little bit about Red Raider Manufacturing and then how that has led to some of the innovations that you see now that you're in a different district?
Yeah. So, I mean, it seems like a different time, a different age, but go back even 5 months ago, one of the biggest disruptions in public education was the skills shortage. How do we get students set up? How do we find different pathways? All these things are still going on. And go back 7 years ago, that disruption was how do we get students more interested in technical jobs? So, being part of a large urban district, our facilities looked a lot like they would have in the 50s. And as we heard employers tell us, we don't have the skills, and our community doesn't have the skills to really allow our manufacturing, our technical places to hire anybody. We needed to find ways to kind of fast forward. Now, I would say with Red Raider, that was more manufacturing 3.0. We needed to have welding labs. We did use the FANUC robots, which were fantastic. We needed to just bring our technical education centers up to what represents manufacturing. And truly from there was a lot of things I learned in that situation. We collaborated with another high school. We were a big district. And that whole project was like $2.5 million. And it was a great piece, but it was really instrumental in helping me see what we could do as I moved here into Random Lake.
Absolutely. And as you moved to Random Lake, I think the next question I wanted us to ponder a little bit was some of the leadership that you and another district exhibited about a year and a half ago or so, when you started looking at how do you teach Industry 4.0 foundations at the middle school level, which, as we all know, is such an influential time for our young people in terms of generating interest that may ultimately lead to their careers. So I'm curious, you and the superintendent in Newsburg worked together to put together this program that really focused on the portable nature of the learning devices, and would be interested in your insights around that particular program before we dive into your latest one with several other school districts.
Sure. And it really came down to coming from a large urban district to a smaller rural district. There were some things that we didn't have here that we had in a larger metropolitan area. More employers, we had more students, we had more resources. And as we looked around, I didn't feel it was fair for kids in different zip codes to have different experiences. And truly, I'm fortunate to have a really innovative thinker as a neighboring district, and approached him and said, what do you think about working together? How can we afford the same things the big districts get by sharing the cost? And we really piloted it in our middle school with our LJ Crate, and there's some really cool programming pieces. And what we did is we wanted to do it in middle school. We had our teachers work together. We shared the equipment and found, it's not impossible to share equipment. And truly, we were able to offer more by working together. And the success of the middle school program really fed into what we're doing now at the high school program with our Industry 4.0 class and our collaboration.
And that new program has really expanded that entire list of organizations, both private and school districts, that are participating. I think it's really, really innovative. As we put this together, Mike, frankly, this should be a webinar in and of itself. And as we get this going, we'd love to have you back to go into a ton of depth. But what you have done with the Elkhart Lake Glenbeulah School District, also with Oostburg, which was part of your original consortium, in the school district in Kiel, in addition to a number of private employers led, I would say probably by Sargento, is really, really fascinating. So tell us a little bit about the members of the Manufacturing 4.0 partnership, who's participating in this and how it came to be.
So for the educators that are out there, they probably would understand this. What we did is we created a professional learning community around technical education, and especially in the rural setting, we have trouble collaborating at times in the technical education world because we have one or two teachers across the district, and it's hard to share really best practices when you're sharing it with yourself or just one other teammate. So we actively, once Kevin and I had some success at the middle school level, we went out and found some other friends that felt similar and said, what do you think about doing this at the high school? And there's a couple things. First of all, this is about 2 years ago. This is when we first started hearing about Industry 4.0. What does Industry 4.0 need? We know about the welding, we know the technical skills, but what about the Internet of Things? What about the programming? How are all these things going to interface? And truly, we looked around and all 4 of our schools didn't have a single piece of a curriculum that we could say tied to Industry 4.0. So once we figured that out, we needed to bring some more friends to come along. So each one of us found one of our local employers to be pulled in so they could confirm and help us adopt what that curriculum around 4.0 looks like for them. So we pulled in manufacturing that's in Random Lake here. Oostburg has Master's Gallery. Elkhart Lake was Sargento, and Kiel was Ameriquip. And we all pulled different employers and different schools, and then we created a professional learning community. And for the educators out there, the first question is, what do we want students to learn? Well, we identified what we want students to learn, and we also identified we want students to get certificates. We want them to get SACA certifications. We want them to get college credits. So as we started building those things, then it was real easy. We know what they want to learn. We know how we're going to assess if they learn it. Now we need the equipment to do it. And that's where Matt's and Mike and the entire Lab Midwest team comes in to say, well, here's some really cool pieces that we could do. And we're a little different. We couldn't go buy a 10,000 pound CNC and move that from school to school. So we needed to find things that were more portable. And what we did is, using Amatrol, using some of these other Skills Boss, we had things that were frankly the size of a suitcase that could very easily be transported between vehicles, by vehicles. And we, by adopting the same curriculum in all 4 districts, we could adopt the same equipment. And from there, it was 2 years, and collaboration around 8 organizations is never easy. But from that, we have a really, really cool course that has curriculum, equipment, and the piece that I'm most proud of is the work-based learning that we have embedded in each one of these classes. Our students are working with each one of these organizations to see what they're learning in the classroom, actually how that applies out in the workforce.
And what a great example of, first of all, the different organizations that are involved in this. And every one of them has some degree of financial skin in the game, certainly. In your vision and with that of others, I know you've benefited from some state grants as well that we could go into more depth on at some point. I'm sure our audience would be interested in hearing more about that. But just a great example of how we do kind of what you referred to earlier, which is it shouldn't matter where a student is or where they're being educated. They should have access to this type of learning. And through creativity, in spite of the fact that all of these districts are certainly smaller than a district like Sheboygan, the students are able to generate and learn those same competencies, which are going to benefit not just the students, which is the main focus, but also your local employers and your communities as a result, which is just so fantastic in terms of the vision that everybody had around this project. You touched on this whole idea of work-based learning. I think our audience would be interested in knowing a little bit more about, first, what types of competencies can you share that your students are learning in these programs, and then some examples of how that work-based learning part will be integrated into the program.
So it kind of worked out really nice, this 4.0, because we have 4 schools, we have 4 businesses, it's around manufacturing 4.0, and we really divided it up into 4 quarters. And in each one of the quarters, we have, in one quarter is advanced manufacturing. Another one is advanced manufacturing 2. We have an Internet of Things, and then we have a programming course. And what each one of these courses we've done is each employer has taken one of these quarters and has adopted that along with a district to create the curriculum and the experiences within it. So what happens is in Random Lake, let's say first quarter, we have the curriculum that's adopted by Ameriquip. So what we do is we start off the quarter, somebody from Ameriquip comes into and talks to our kids about safety and all these other pieces. And from there, at the end of the quarter, after we talk about all the things that are around around advanced manufacturing, our students actually spend a day at Ameriquip practicing those skills that they learned in the classroom. And the theory behind this, we're lucky in Sheboygan County, we have a business that was started called Inspire Sheboygan County. And one of the pieces we're trying to do is give students confidence that they meet a professional early on in the class. They go out and they get to see what this environment looks like. They build confidence. And our hope is from there that they'll move on and maybe do co-ops, youth apprenticeships, job shadows, trying to build student confidence so they can see that learning happens in the school, but it actually can happen as much outside the bricks and mortar. And the other piece I think that is sometimes gets overlooked, but maybe one of the key factors of success is the professional development that happens with this. The relationship of having professionals in the field come into our classroom and having it mandated. You know, this is a time we have it scheduled when they come. Watching our teachers just see how what they've been teaching actually applies to the field or actually is tweaked. I would say in both the settings back in Sheboygan and here, our teachers, our technical education teachers have never been better professionally developed than they are right now because of Lab Midwest and the employers that we're working with. And it just gives the students an even better experience than we could have ever hoped for.
Well, we certainly appreciate the recognition, but none of that happens without the innovation and the disruption that you and your team were able to create. Thinking about this just a little bit different way, I have two invitations for you, Mike. The first one is we'd love to have you back once this is rolling, and we'll do a deep dive on the entire program and let folks look under the hood and see exactly how it's working. The other thing is, as we move on with the webinar here, I know our audience is going to have some questions for you. Would you be willing to stick around until I'm done with the next three and answer any questions that come from the audience?
Love to. I'll stick around as long as you need.
All right, perfect. So Dr. Michael Trimberger, a true innovator, a true disruptor, and a great friend to technical education. Thank you so much. And we'll be back with Mike in just a moment to answer some questions as we dive into the next way that portables are disrupting technical education, and that is in this whole field of workforce training. Would you believe that according to Pearson, the textbook company, 24% of employees say that their employers offer no learning and development. 1 in 4 people get no learning and development at work. Only 1/3 of large employers offer direct courses to their employees. Now, many offer tuition reimbursement programs, and those are fantastic, and I'm a huge proponent of them. Do you know the number one reason that most employees don't take advantage of tuition reimbursement is that it's hard to take time off of work? Portables provide a great opportunity for us to upskill our workforce. 20 years from today, 80% of the people working in manufacturing work there today. Most of the people that will be working in manufacturing in 20 years are employed there now. And so as important as it is to inspire young people toward these careers, and that is a huge part of the solution, the other part of it is what are we doing to upskill our people at work? What are we doing to teach them advanced manufacturing technology so that technology doesn't leave them behind? There are ways that we can use portable learning systems to teach everything from basic measurement to basic AC/DC, to hear somebody using a dial caliper. We have somebody here going through a knowledge check, making sure that the information they're supposed to know is sticking in their heads, and if not, they can go back and learn it. Somebody else doing an electrical circuit and using a portable learning system to do that. All of these are photographs that I took at the Ashley Furniture Advanced Technology Maker Center, where they brought a ton of partners in, their technical colleges and others, to talk about what their students inside of their employment should be learning. And then created this Advanced Technology Maker Center to ensure that their learners and their employees that are already incumbent employees are getting and gaining those skills and competencies that will be so very important for them. One of the fastest growing areas in portables is technical and community colleges using these in association with their local employers to deliver on-site learning to the employees in a flexible fashion that meets the employee's schedule and the employer's schedule. So number 5, workforce training, is the 5th way that portables are disrupting technical education. We have 2 left, and moving on to number 6 is they're being used for student and career outreach. Last year, our company was invited by Rockwell Automation to exhibit at Automation Fair and to put on an automation challenge where we had students and learners and attendees of all ages approaching portable learning systems and trying to solve a problem, to build a circuit, to understand electric relay control, to troubleshoot a manufacturing system. And the interest that generates in careers in manufacturing is unbelievable, where a lot of times students that weren't familiar with this technology quickly become familiar with it. It is a great opportunity for us to take students and learners who lack familiarity with manufacturing and show them the great experiences and the great career opportunities that await them. It's absolutely amazing to see people come alive. So we have employers and we have educators using portable learning systems in all sorts of STEM camps and exhibitions to get people interested in that technology. And finally, number 7, and Dr. Trimberger touched on this just a moment ago, is this whole idea of certification validation. If I am an employer and I am hiring somebody to fill a specific position, how do I know necessarily that that individual has the skills and competencies that I'm looking for that will make them successful in their position? A big way that employers and that the workplace in general is addressing this problem is this whole idea of third-party certifications. Now, there are several certification bodies out there, lots and lots of them. Mike Trimberger earlier referenced the Smart Automation Certification Alliance as one example. And the Smart Automation Certification Alliance is defining and working with industrial employers to define those competencies that are valuable in advanced manufacturing and Industry 4.0, and then creating exams, both written and hands-on, to validate that a student or a learner has those competencies. Now, when it comes to those hands-on competencies, one of the best ways to establish that they have them is to use portable learning systems that maybe aren't out on the floor all the time, or maybe can be moved from plant to plant to plant, along with a proctor who can validate that the individual has those hands-on skills. So the 7th and final way that portables are disrupting technical education is through the validation of third-party certifications. So really quickly, to go back through our list before I turn it over to Melissa to pose any questions from the audience, the 7 ways that portable learning systems are disrupting technical education. Number 1, socially distanced labs, where we have to have our students spread out and not working 3 or 4 or 5 at a specific piece of equipment at a time. Learning from home, where students can take a portable home and perform their exercises in the safety of their own home before bringing it back to school and allowing another student to utilize it. Cross-curricular learning, we use the example of the Mobile Skills Lab, where students can learn not just advanced manufacturing technology, but physics and engineering and mechanical systems and mathematics using those same portable learning systems. Inter-school and inter-district rotation, where Dr. Trimberger shared with us all the great ways that his organization is partnering with other school districts and leveraging investments in portable learning systems. Workforce training, where we are taking portables to the employee at their place of work and upskilling them in whatever discipline they need to be upskilled. Student and career outreach, like the example from Rockwell Automation's Automation Fair, where we get young people and people of all ages excited about manufacturing, advanced manufacturing technology, and get them excited about the careers that await them in the future of manufacturing. And finally, certification validation, using a portable learning system to validate that an individual who is sitting for a certification has the hands-on skills that they purport to have. So with that, Melissa, I'm going to hand it back over to you. We'd love to take any questions that came from our audience.
Thanks, Matt. Mike, I'm going to direct this first question to you. The question is, if your school district already had a relationship with Amatrol, how did that benefit you as you made the transition to distance learning?
Yeah, so a great question, Melissa. One of the pieces, just to be clear, our middle school curriculum has been going on for 2 years, and we've been in development for the 4.0 curriculum to really implement next year. And then all of us got hit with this COVID piece and didn't know what we were going to do. And truly, one of the areas that was the most difficult to figure out from March 15th on was how do we virtually teach technical education. So I was fortunate enough to be able to go down to Amatrol and knew that all their virtual trainers, all those pieces that are available would be something that we could use. So kind of fast forwarding our contract with Amatrol, our staff here really latched onto it and started sending some of these virtual trainers out to our students that were, web-based learning opportunities. And the amount of hours that our students were able to look at hydraulic systems, pneumatic systems, Internet of Things, all these different pieces that really fit, it allowed us to individualize the learning to our students' interest, and it allowed us to send things out in a time where, frankly, a lot of us were struggling on what technical education would look like virtually.
Great, thanks so much. The next question I'm going to direct to Matt. Matt, are could you say that portable learning systems truly deliver the same quality of education as maybe the full-size stand-up trainers?
That's a big question, and the answer is yes, with maybe a little bit of a qualifier. I'm a huge believer in putting students around a trainer with each other, and we can learn as much learn as much on our own sometimes as we can learn from watching other people and learn from their mistakes and from their trials and tribulations. And so one of the challenges with portables, admittedly, is we can't necessarily put 3 or 4 or 5 students around them. On the other hand, in this day and age, we wouldn't be able to do that anyway. In terms of the competencies that are delivered on the portable trainers, most of the ones that are offered, certainly by Lab Midwest, have the same exact competencies that you would learn on a full-size trainer. So for example, a full-size AC/DC trainer will deliver a certain list of competencies, of learning objectives and skills, and the portable trainer is designed to deliver exactly those same competencies, just in a smaller footprint.
Thanks, Matt. All right, one more question I think we have time for. Have you seen an increase in high school students seeking a technical degree after going through these classes?
Go ahead, Mike.
I was going to say, I was just going to use the Red Raider piece. So when we went out to businesses and said, you know what, we need to really bring our technical education equipment in this room up to the 21st century. We made some promises to them, and we said, you know what, we will collectively fundraise. It was a capital campaign, 2.5 million, 2.4, I forget the number exactly. But we made some promises that in speculations that if we have this, if we do these things, if we have cool things like robots and CNCs, if we bring it out of the 50s and into the 21st century, we'll have more students. And our goal was to double the number of technical education students in 3 years. And before I left, we more than doubled them. And it was really cool because some of the things we were seeing is not only more kids taking the classes, but our teachers in math were starting to see how this equipment was relevant for quadrants, was relevant in some other areas. So we doubled the number of students that are actually taking the classes, but we quadrupled and plus on how many students were actually using the equipment because it was stuff that actually teachers were excited about outside the technical education area.
Excellent. And I'll just, if I may, Melissa, add to that. And that was a perfect answer, Mike. You know, one of my favorite examples is a young man who's actually was a high school student who was taking courses at his high school. And this happened to be in the district of Gateway Technical College. And this is somebody who recognized early on that he could get a full half a semester of work done toward an advanced manufacturing technology degree while he was in his senior year of high school, and started with a semester done into a 2-year degree, and was able to complete that degree then in 18 months as opposed to 2 years. And when you think about the advantage of the income that he was earning once he got into the workforce versus the fact that he had an extra semester in the workforce, plus he saved that semester worth of cost of credits at the technical college, just a huge head start. And his name is Jaron Ramig, and he is just one of dozens upon dozens of examples that we could share like that. So the short answer is yes, and you got the long answer to the question from both Mike and from me.
And if I can just add a piece, especially about the college credits, and I'm sure a lot of people in the room know this, college credits, they're impactful for parents. And when they see that you're taking the time to really cross-connect what's happening in high school with dual credits, that was a piece that a lot of our parents were interested in because they see the financial benefits of it. So in a time sometimes that it's hard to engage parents in those conversations about college and career readiness, this was one of the things that really helped with that.
Awesome. Thanks so much for your time on the Q&A. Matt, I'll leave things over to you to wrap up.
Absolutely. Well, first, Melissa, thank you for once again being a phenomenal producer. We really appreciate all of your hard work in putting these together. Certainly to disruptor and innovator and my friend, Dr. Michael Trimberger, for joining us today. I always learned something. I knew I would. Really appreciate you joining us, and we're all excited to see your program get launched here in the fall and continue through the school year. So looking forward to seeing that. Certainly to all of our attendees, thank you for joining us. I know everybody's busy. The weather's nice outside, and the fact that we can pull these many people into webinars every week is just awesome. Really appreciate everybody being here. We will be back next week with another webinar Wednesday. And until then, everybody be safe and be well.